My name is Anthony Adenaike. In this video, I will be exposing persistent, criminal, and unlawful acts, conduct, practices, and patterns of behavior pertaining to unlawful exclusion, discrimination, victimization, racism, and Isle of Man government-sponsored institutional racism, hate crimes, racially aggravated malfeasance in a public office, inciting racism and hate crimes, fraud, extortion, etc. by very corrupt and racist Isle of Man judges, including Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, and John A. Needham. This is the victim's evidence regarding institutional racism and other hateful acts. I will scroll quickly to the abstract. Following the victim's complaints regarding very serious misconduct by I Bailiff John A. Needham, some of which are briefly summarized below as follows. I Bailiff John A. Needham instructed Mr. Andrew Thomas Newton from Appleby, Isle of Man LLC to falsify court documents, and Mr. Rob Temple to exclude and discriminate against the victim, which is myself. See public disclosure number 1 in the info card. Following these complaints, the victim took the following courses of action. I made formal complaints regarding the serious misconduct by Bailiff Needham to the Isle of Man authorities. They did nothing about this. The victim made formal request asking Bailiff Needham to recuse himself. Bailiff Needham refused to recuse himself. After Bailiff Needham refused to recuse himself, the victim withdrew from other cases. For example, claimed case number odd 170002 that Bailiff Needham presided over. As long as a very corrupt, there is evidence that this judge is corrupt, as long as he was presiding over this case, odd 170002, it is not possible for me to get a fair trial. Therefore, on August the 1st, 2017, I filed an appeal notice on form HC11. I also paid £325. This is the check number 100321. Paragraph 2. Disclosed below are some of the many ways that I, the victim, was treated less favorably, prejudicially, discriminated against, excluded, and also subjected to unlawful acts of gratuitous racism. That is Isle of Man government-sponsored institutional racism. 8. Hating somebody because of the color of their skin. Racially aggravated malfeasance in public office. Victimization, extortion, in order to unlawfully prevent and hinder the victim from exposing the serious misconduct by I Bailiff John A. Needham in the course of my appeal. Here. Very corrupt and racist, paragraph 2A, very corrupt and racist Isle of Man judges, including Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, and John A. Needham, they incited, authorized, instructed Isle of Man court staff who were used as their racist surrogates. They instructed these Isle of Man court staff not to process or issue the victim's appeal notice. This was done to the victim only, as I noted here. They instructed Isle of Man court staff to deprive and defraud the victim of his court filing fee of £325 made payable to the Isle of Man government. Exhibit 203. I want to note that the court filing fee of £325 was debited from my account and credited to the Isle of Man government's account on August the 15th, 2017. Yet, the Isle of Man court refused and failed. Collectively, they refused and failed to process or issue my appeal notice, and it sent back an unissued appeal notice without any valid reasons as to why the victim's appeal had not been issued, albeit £325 had already been deducted from my account and credited to the account of the Isle of Man government. The unissued appeal notice that was sent back to me had no issue date and no claim number in the box marked for court use only. Exhibit 204. Isle of Man court staff were instructed to discriminate against the victim. Isle of Man court staff were instructed to exclude the victim from an ongoing appeal. This is the appeal number here, 2DS2017/18. Paragraph 2B. Isle of Man court staff issued the victim's appeal notice, the same appeal notice which they refused to issue to the victim. Isle of Man court staff issued the victim's appeal notice and other information to the respondent, to the other party, only and exclusively. For example, the ongoing appeal case number was furnished to the respondents only and exclusively. The victim gleaned the claim number or the case number that was assigned originally to the appeal from the respondents, the other party, after the respondents started filing submissions with the Isle of Man courts using that case number. I started to wonder what is going on. There are documents that would prove that this was going on. Those documents will be exhibited as 205A, Exhibit 205A and 205B. This meant that paragraph C, 2C, this meant that on one hand, from the 1st of August 2017, the day I filed my appeal, to the 27th of November 2017, that is a period of 120 days, 4 months. A copy of the appeal notice was not issued to the victim at all, and I was excluded, unlawfully excluded, and denied access to the Isle of Man courts because of my race, because of my color, and other protected characteristics. The victim was deliberately, willfully left in total darkness in regards to his appeal for 120 days, 4 months. I was wondering what was going on. I wasn't able to sleep at night. This paragraph. On the other hand, the same 2DS 2017/18 appeal notice was issued to both respondents only and exclusively. During the period of 120 days, the Isle of Man courts invited and solicited submissions from the respondents. There is an email which I will exhibit as Exhibit 206, which shows they were communicating with each other. A black person has been, victim has been excluded, discriminated against. A pack of white people, they were talking to each other, communicating with each other, even though I paid the court fees. There was nothing wrong with my appeal. So that email will be exhibited as Exhibit 206. I would like to make in this paragraph 2D, I would like to make very important comparison. Only the victim was deliberately or willfully singled out for these unlawful acts of gratuitous Isle of Man government-sponsored institutional racism, less favorable and hateful treatment, discrimination, victimization, etc., without any justification, legal, ethical, or otherwise. Exhibit 207A and 207B. I will show you that to show you what was going on, because multiple application notices that were filed by the respondents, the other party, to strike out the victim's claim, odd 170002 claim, were processed and issued by the Isle of Man court pronto within 1 to 2 days. This will be exhibited as Exhibit 207A and 207B. Paragraph 3. The victim made formal complaints about the fact that he had been illegally deprived and defrauded of his Isle of Man court's appeal filing fee of £325, which as I noted earlier, had already been debited from my account and credited to the Isle of Man government's account without providing any service, without providing a professional service or appropriate service. That complaint is Exhibit 210B. Paragraph 4 is a document. Exhibit 600 is a document that defines institutional racism. It's a standard and authority on institutional racism, the definition of institutional racism. Paragraph 5. These unlawful acts clearly violate the provisions of the Isle of Man Race Relations Act. They violate the Isle of Man Human Rights Act and articles of the European Convention on Human Rights. Section 5 of the on instructions to discriminate of the Isle of Man Race Relations Act 2004 clearly states it is unlawful for a person who has authority over another person to instruct him to do any act which is unlawful by virtue of this act, or to procure or attempt to procure the doing by him of any such act. This will be exhibited as Exhibit 208 to show clearly that what they were doing is racism, is wrong, is discriminatory, and is prohibited by law. Paragraph 6. It is noted that, I would like to note here that all the victims' valid complaints in this and other regards were fraudulently covered up, and the victim was extorted. I was ordered to pay the respondents against the other side the sum of £16,000 because I made complaints regarding very valid complaints regarding very serious misconduct by, I believe, John A. Needham and others within the Isle of Man justice system. It is also very important that I note that appeal case, the original appeal case 2DS 2017/18 was simply reissued as appeal case 2DS 2017/31 after 120 days, 4 months of unlawful exclusion, racism, gratuitous racism, Isle of Man government-sponsored institutional racism. 8. Racially aggravated malfeasance in a public office, victimization and extortion. These documents here, I would exhibit these documents 213A, 211A, and 211B. Paragraph 7. No one has the right to incite, to authorize, or instruct others to discriminate against another person because of their race, because of their color or protected characteristics. It is manifestly, I noted here that it is manifestly clear and self-evident that it is criminal and unlawful to incite others to perpetrate discriminatory or racist acts and hate crimes. I believe these are hate crimes. It is unlawful and criminal to perpetrate systemic, well-organized racism and discrimination, which I called SWORD. A pack a number of white people were discriminating. They were playing the race card, the white race card, discriminating against a black person gratuitously. They were well organized. They were behaving like a pack of wolves, a pack of racist wolves. So it is wrong. It is totally wrong to incite others, to use others as racist, hateful surrogates. It is wrong. It is criminal. It is unlawful to authorize others to deprive and defraud me of my money. It is criminal and unlawful to instruct others not to process or issue the victim's appeal notice to the victim only. As I mentioned, I was singled out for this treatment. I was singled out for this treatment because of my race, because of my color, and other protected characteristics, and because I made very valid evidence-based complaints against, I believe, the misconduct of, I believe, John A. Needham. A group of white people were now victimizing me. They held my money. This is against the law. This is clearly against the law. I have complained to my MP. I am complaining to the British government at the minute. I have complained to the Isle of Man government. The Isle of Man government has a duty of care towards me. They have a duty of care to ensure that I am not discriminated against. Also, I believe the British government has a duty of care, because I have been complaining to the British government as well. I am a British citizen. This matter is not going to go away because I have evidence to prove that the way that black people are being treated within the justice system, it is wrong, totally wrong. It is criminal. It is unlawful that a white judge, a white racist judge, would instruct others to falsify court documents, and that white judge continues to sit on my case. He continues to sit on the case. He refused to recuse himself when there is evidence of fraud and other racially aggravated malfeasance in public office. Coming up next, I will exhibit all the documentary evidence to corroborate what I have been saying. This is Exhibit 203, the payment of £325 made towards my appeal. This check is a legal instrument or legal tender which I made payable to the Isle of Man government in order that the Isle of Man courts could provide an appropriate and professional service to me. They refused, the Isle of Man government or courts refused to provide a professional and appropriate service to me. Instead, very corrupt and racist Isle of Man court judges, including Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, and John A. Needham, incited, authorized, and instructed their racist surrogates who are Isle of Man court staff to withhold my money unlawfully. I was deprived and defrauded of my money because the Isle of Man government wanted to prevent and hinder the victim from exposing the very serious misconduct by a very corrupt and racist John A. Needham during the course of my appeal. Here is the check number 100321. I want to note that this is not the only time that monies were withheld from me without providing any service. I will be making other disclosures of publishing checks that were withheld from me at a future date. At this point, I want to take you to a document. This is a letter that I received from Mr. Rob Temple of the Isle of Man Court, asking for a payment of £325. He says a payment can be made by check to the Isle of Man government. I applied for legal representation / legal aid in the Isle of Man. They refused to give me any legal representation or legal aid. I also made application asking them to waive the court fees. They refused to waive the court fees. So they sent me this letter demanding the filing fee of £325. Now, let me go back to the check. I paid this £325 expecting an appropriate and professional service. What they did, in order to stop me from appealing, they withheld this money. They defrauded me of my money unlawfully. This is wrong. This is what I'm complaining about. This is discrimination. This is what I'm complaining to the British government about. This is what I've complained to my MP about, Mr. Adam Holloway. This is what I'm complaining to the Department of Justice, the Ministry of Justice in the United Kingdom about. This act is totally wrong. I was treated this way persistently. It is unlawful. It is totally wrong. I was treated this way because of my race, my color, and other protected characteristics. This is Exhibit 204, the victim's appeal notice on Form HC11. I want to note that Isle of Man court staff were instructed not to process or issue the victim's appeal notice to the victim only, albeit £325 had already been debited from the victim's bank account and credited to the Isle of Man government's account unlawfully. The victim was singled out for this prejudicial and discriminatory treatment. Isle of Man court staff were instructed to exclude the victim from an ongoing original appeal case number 2DS 2017/18. As I noted in my victim's evidence, this is a box. This box, it says for court use only. As you can see, the claim number, there is no claim number, there is no issue date. Here, somebody from the Isle of Man courts scribbled 325, as you can see here, £325, paid, they confirmed that I paid £325, yet they refused to process or issue my appeal notice. The appeal notice was issued to the other party, to the respondents, the other party. This is discriminatory. This is unlawful. This is wrong. This is what I'm complaining about. I want the British government to do something about this. It is clear that racism is an evil act. We all know that. If this is a just cause, I am making this complaint. This complaint that I'm making is a just cause because I am being treated, racism is being directed against me. That is why I'm complaining to the British government. And I will continue to complain about these corrupt and racist judges who incited and authorized, instructed their racist surrogates to exclude me because of my race from a court process. It is wrong. If, as I said, this is a just cause, and if you believe that racism is wrong, you cannot just keep quiet. The Isle of Man government cannot just keep quiet. The British government cannot just keep quiet. Something has to be done about this matter because it is not going to go away. It is totally wrong. It is discriminatory. And it is racially aggravated malfeasance in a public office. Abuse of public office by public servants. It is totally wrong, unlawful, a breach of my human rights. This is Exhibit 205A, the first respondent's submissions, as you can see here. Isle of Man court staff were unlawfully incited, authorized, and instructed to issue, and they issued the victim's appeal notice and other information regarding the victim's appeal to the respondents only and exclusively. The victim was unlawfully excluded and discriminated against because of his race, color, and other protected characteristics. I want to show you, demonstrate to you that this is racism. Here is the original appeal case number. It is 2DS 2017/18 here at the top of this document. The victim gleaned the original appeal case number, this appeal case number. I gleaned this case number from the respondents when they started filing submissions, their submissions with the court. Again, as I've said before, Isle of Man court staff were unlawfully incited, authorized, and instructed to play the racist, white privilege supremacist card against a black victim. These instructions came from Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, and John A. Needham. Also, I want to take you to another document. This document is Exhibit 205A, a document very similar to the first. This is the second respondent's submissions. As you can see here, this is right here that I'm marking up. This is the original appeal case number 2DS 2017/18 that I was excluded from. Let me take you to the bottom of the page of this document. Here, this document was signed by Zara Ruth Costain, a racist advocate, one of the racist surrogates of the Isle of Man government. This is dated 6th day of September 2017, as you can see here. This racist advocate, Zara Ruth Costain, is being paid £225 per hour to discriminate against a black victim. This is unlawful. This is against the law and against my human rights. I'll go back to the first document, Exhibit 205A, and show you the date as well. This is the date that this document, Exhibit 205A, was submitted. The date is 25th of August 2017. This is the advocate, Keiron Murray, is the advocate for the first respondent. This advocate, racist advocate, a racist surrogate of the Isle of Man government, is being paid £250 per hour to discriminate against a black victim. This is unlawful and it is against the law. It is institutional racism. There is no doubt about it. I paid monies to the Isle of Man government for a service. They refuse to offer, to provide a service, an appropriate and professional service. Again, let me take you to the so that there is no ambiguities, there is no doubt, so that it is clear to anybody who views this video. This is the original appeal case number 2DS 2017/18. This document was made by the first respondent, and this exhibit a similar document. Again, this is the appeal case number that I learned. The court should have given me this information, but they refused. So it is unlawful. That is what I'm saying. It is clear. My case is clear. It's clear cut. This is Exhibit 206, an email-based evidence. Looking at the header of this email here, it shows that the email was sent by a Quine, who is a staff of the Isle of Man courts. The email was sent on the 24th of August 2017 at 12:12. It was sent to Keiron Murray, one of the advocates, the advocate of the first respondent, one of the advocates in the case. It was copied to a Rebecca Kelly, also known as Rebecca Bingle. The subject matter was new appeal. They were talking about my appeal notice. The email reads here, "Dear Keiron, new appeal. here. This is very important. This paragraph, the first paragraph, it says, please see attached appeal notice in respect of the above. So the appeal notice that they refused to issue to me was issued to one of the other parties, one of the respondents, or to both respondents actually. Then paragraph 2 here, this paragraph, it says, please let us have your submissions by this date. So the Isle of Man court staff were inviting and soliciting submissions from the respondents. This is at the same time whilst a black litigant in person has been, a black person, a black victim, has been unlawfully excluded and discriminated against. They never provided me with they never issued, processed or issued an appeal notice, my appeal notice to me, even though I had already paid £325. This date is very important, 24th of August. You can see that they were talking to each other, right? My check cleared, £325 was debited from my account, bank account, on the 15th of August, which is earlier than the 24th of August, and credited to the Isle of Man government's bank account. Yet they continued to exclude me unlawfully. So it is clear there. I was complaining, I made complaints about this. They did nothing. So again, it is Isle of Man government sponsored institutional racism. They know about it, they instructed it, they authorized it, they incited it. So it is clear. This is hard evidence of discrimination by racist criminals. This is Exhibit 207A, an application notice that was filed by the first respondent. An application notice is more or less the same as an appeal notice. I want to point out very important things. I will scroll to the bottom of the page of this document, this application notice, to show you the date that it was prepared. Here is the date that, right here, 10th of January 2017. It was prepared by Keiron James Murray. I'll take you to the top, back to the top. This is the date that is very important, 10th of January 2017. That was when the appeal was, the application notice was made, prepared. 2 days later, on the 12th of January 2017, here, right here, the Isle of Man court issued this application notice. So it only took a couple of days. This is 10th of January, very important. And it was processed and issued 2 days later. I would like to take you also to a similar document. This is an application notice, as you can see here as well, that was filed by the second respondent. Again, the date issue, the date is very important. Let me take you to the bottom of this document. This document was prepared on the 21st of March 2017, as you can see here. It was prepared by this advocate, Ruth Costain. So 21st of March 2017, I'll take you to back to the top of the page to show you this. The following day, which is 22nd of March, right here, the Isle of Man court processed and issued this application notice. Now, to compare how, drawing comparisons, only the victim was deliberately or willfully singled out for unlawful acts of gratuitous Isle of Man government-sponsored institutional racism, less favorable and hateful treatment, discrimination, victimization, and so forth. You can see that when applications were made by the other party, not that. When applications were made by the other party, this application, Exhibit 207B and Exhibit 207A, this one. These application notices were issued by the Isle of Man courts pronto within 1 or 2 days. I was never treated this way. I was treated differently, totally discriminated against. So it is very clear, again, with evidence. I'm demonstrating with evidence. This is comparable evidence to show that a black person pays for a service, they fail, they refuse collectively, the Isle of Man government instructed staff within the Isle of Man courts not to process or issue my appeal notice, whilst the application notices, as you can see here, filed by the opposing party were issued within pronto within 1 or 2 days. That is discrimination, differential treatment. This is Exhibit 210B, one of the formal complaints, one of the many formal complaints that the victim made. This complaint is in the form of a letter dated 6th of September the 6th, 2017. It was addressed to the Chief Registrar of the Isle of Man courts. The subject matter was about appeal of claim number odd 170002, formerly this number SCP-16/1081. It was about formal complaints about the appeal filing fee of £325 that was illegally debited from my bank account, and the collective failure to provide a service to me because of my color, because of my race. In paragraph 1, I will carefully go through this letter because it is important. In paragraph 1 here, I wrote, I hereby write in order to make formal complaints about the appeal filing fee of £325 that was illegally debited from my bank account, and the refusal and failure, i.e. collective failure by the Isle of Man courts to provide a service to me because of my race, color, and or other protected characteristics. Paragraph 2, for the avoidance of any ambiguities at this moment in time or in the future, I deem the refusal and failure, that is collective failure by the Isle of Man courts to provide the service to me because of my protected characteristics, very discriminatory, racist, hateful, and unlawful acts. I intend to refer to the contents of this letter or these complaints during the entire course of this litigation or in future litigations as fresh and further complaints. So I'll be make fresh and further complaints against the Isle of Man government for discrimination, institutionally, Isle of Man government sponsored institutional racism. Here, paragraph 3. For the avoidance of any ambiguities, I wish to make the following facts a matter of record. Number 1, I paid a filing fee of £325, again check number 100321, to the Isle of Man courts in order to file an appeal. My check was made payable to the Isle of Man government as directed by Mr. Rob Temple of the Isle of Man courts in his letter dated 3rd of August 2017, in which he demanded I pay the filing fee of £325. Paragraph 2. The filing fee of £325 was debited from my bank account and credited to the Isle of Man government's account on the 15th of August 2017. Paragraph 3. Since the filing fee of £325 was paid, the Isle of Man court has refused and failed a collective failure to process or issue, and it sent back an unissued appeal notice, Form HC1, without any valid reasons given as to why my appeal has not been issued, albeit £325 has already been debited from my bank account. Paragraph 4. Having paid the filing fee of £325 in good faith, I was expecting a professional and an appropriate service. I never got that service. Paragraph 5. These acts, practices, conduct, or patterns of behavior are very discriminatory, racist, hateful, and unlawful. I note with emphasis, paragraph 5A, these unlawful acts have been persistent and recurrent in nature. They were persistent because they did this to me many times. They would take monies from me, sit on the money, confiscate the money, defraud me of my money, and not provide any service. So these unlawful acts have been persistent and recurrent in nature. There is a well-established discriminatory and victimizing pattern. 5B, paragraph 5B. I am the only one who has been and is being subjected to this less favorable, discriminatory, and victimizing, that is, act of victimizing treatment in comparison to white litigants. The other side, the other party, the respondents, they are white litigants. Because I made complaints pertaining to very serious misconduct, etc., that were perpetrated by bailiff John A. Needham and others against me, which is one of the reasons I filed an appeal in the first place. Paragraph 6. Therefore, for the avoidance of any doubt, I hereby formally asseverate that I have been illegally deprived or defrauded of my filing fee of £325. The Isle of Man, the next paragraph down from there, the Isle of Man court is well aware that I claim employment and support allowance due to the fact that I have been unable to return to work because of the very serious injuries, which includes ongoing heart-related problems. I now suffer from heart-related problems because one of the Isle of Man government employees, a prison guard, deliberately caused me those injuries that were caused to me unlawfully, unjustifiable, and gratuitously by the employees of the Isle of Man government. As a matter of record, again, let me go back to this paragraph. I claim on employment and support allowance, yet they still took my money, defrauded me of my money, withheld my money, knowing that I was claiming an employment and support allowance. Now, as a matter of record, this paragraph here, as a matter of record, legally depriving and defrauding me of my filing fee of £325 has had and is having significant and very detrimental impact on both my physical and mental health. I am very concerned, troubled, and I feel extremely distressed, traumatized, and anxious. I also feel persecuted and exploited. This is persecution because they did it over and over again, right? Knowing I suffer from health-related problems that they caused me, knowing that I am on employment support allowance, I feel persecuted and exploited that the Isle of Man court has acted and is still acting in a very discriminatory, racist, hateful, and unlawful manner towards me again, with emphasis on again, because they did this over and over again, persistently. That is the Isle of Man court, your very discriminatory, racist, hateful, and unlawful acts are totally incompatible with the rule of law or my human rights. It is very shameful and dishonorable that I have been illegally deprived or defrauded of my filing fee of £325 in this unlawful manner. In this paragraph, I asked them to provide me with any justifiable reasons why they did this. May I ask you that you provide me with any justifiable reason as to why you deliberately refused and failed, collective failure again, to process or issue my appeal notice on Form HC11, albeit £325 has already been debited from my bank account and credited to the Isle of Man government's account. Evidence of proof. I said to them that my letters, my checks, and other documents will serve as indisputable, irrefutable physical evidence of your very discriminatory, racist, hateful, and unlawful acts, practices, conduct, or patterns of behavior which I intend to refer to during the entire course of this litigation or in future litigations as fresh and further complaints. There will be fresh complaints, there will be fresh litigations. Very important ethical moral note, this paragraph. You should not have illegally deprived or defrauded me of my filing fee of £325, knowing that you are not going to process or issue my appeal notice. They knew that they were going to sit on my money, deprive me of my money, defraud me of my money. They still took my money. This is totally unlawful and it is totally wrong. I believe you fully understand that as a public authority, you are not permitted to act unlawfully. You fully understand that you cannot deprive me of my money, which I paid to you in good faith for a service. My checks were made payable to the Isle of Man government. You are or will be liable for any consequences or detriment that might result or arise due to any unjustifiable or willful failure on your part. So they will be liable, I hold them liable for doing this to me. Number 4, you fully understand the content of this communication, this letter. It is clear and I signed it. So it is very clear. They treated me as if I did not exist. They got this letter. I will show you the date of this letter again. This letter was sent on the 6th of September 2017. They treated me as if I did not exist. They did not reply this letter. They did not deal with my complaints. This is Exhibit 600. Sir William McPherson is an authority on institutional racism. Institutional racism was defined by Sir William McPherson in the 1999 Lawrence Report, United Kingdom, as the collective failure of an organization to provide an appropriate and professional service to people because of their color, culture, or ethnic origin. It can be seen or detected in processes, attitudes, and behavior which amount to discrimination through unwitting prejudice, ignorance, thoughtlessness, and racist stereotyping which disadvantage minority ethnic people. I want to take this definition by Sir William McPherson, an authority on institutional racism, and carefully look at, if you study the way the Isle of Man government has been treating me, hence Isle of Man government sponsored institutional racism, right? I paid money, £325, for an appeal. There was a collective failure by an organization which is the Isle of Man Courts. They took my money, confiscated my money, withheld my money, defrauded me of my money, and refused they collectively refused and failed to provide an appropriate and professional service to me, the victim, because of my color, because of my race, and other protected characteristics. You can see they did this over and over again persistently. You can see it, it is very clear, it is visible, manifestly visible, and you can detect it in their processes, in their attitudes, in their behavior, in their acts, in their conduct of excluding, discriminating against me without any justifiable reason. This is totally wrong and unlawful. Following, I want to take a few minutes to talk about the case of Stephen Lawrence, out of respect. Following the unlawful unlawful killing of Stephen by very racist gang of thugs, the police in the UK, they refused to provide, it was a collective failure. They refused and failed to provide an appropriate and professional service to the Lawrence family. That was when this judge, Sir William McPherson, is a good judge. He did the right thing. Stephen has been killed, unlawfully killed, by racist gang. They are well known that this is a racist gang of people. Yet the Isle of Man, not the Isle of Man police, the United Kingdom police, they refused to provide an appropriate service to the Lawrence family. Again, that is what the Isle of Man is now doing to me. This is wrong. This is institutional racism, and this is what I'm raising with the Isle of Man government, who they are the sponsors of this institutional racism against me. So I expect them not to do anything about it. that actually proves they are institutionally racist. Because at least if you complain, they will take your complaint seriously and do something about it. The fact that they are not doing anything about it proves, is further evidence that they are institutionally racist. And I'm also complaining here to the United Kingdom government because it is unlawful. What the Isle of Man government is doing is unlawful. So, as I want to point out also, raise the Windrush generation, which happened in the United Kingdom. We saw how the Windrush generations were treated. They were British citizens and they were treated unlawfully. In the way they were treated was totally wrong and shameful by the British government. Now I'm complaining about being institutionally discriminated against. I'm complaining about institutional racism. I hope that the British government is going to do something about it. But anyway, I won't hold my breath at the minute. But I will keep on complaining nonetheless as the Windrush generations continue to complain. This is Exhibit 208, the Isle of Man Race Relations Act 2004. I will scroll to relevant portions of this document. Section 1 here talks about public authorities. Section 2, Section 1, public authorities. Section 2 talks about unlawful racial discrimination. We know racial discrimination is unlawful. I want to go to Section 3 also, victimization, because I am complaining about public authorities discriminating against me based on my race, institutional racism, public authorities victimizing me because of my race, because I made complaints, valid complaints about serious misconduct by, I believe, John A. Needham. My check was held, my money was withheld, and I was victimized, as I have been showing in this video. There is ample evidence, proof, that clearly manifests palpable racial discrimination, palpable victimization by Isle of Man public authorities. I will also point out paragraph 5, which I covered in my witness evidence, victims evidence, about instructions to discriminate. As I covered in that document, in my victim's witness statement, it is unlawful to incite, authorize, or instruct somebody else to discriminate against a victim because of their color, because of their race, and other protected characteristics. It carefully states that here. So it is very clear. There is no doubt at all. You cannot incite others to discriminate against somebody you hate, because you hate them because of their color. So it is totally wrong and unlawful. It is criminal that Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, and John A. Needham would instruct, it is unlawful that they would instruct Isle of Man court staff, who are their racist surrogates, to discriminate against me, to victimize me, to persecute me. This is persecution. It is hate crime. And I will be, like I have said it, I've already complained to the Isle of Man police. I've gone through my MP. I believe that is what they are saying, that they are conducting an investigation. When I went to the Isle of Man police asking them to investigate this, they refused. So I'm waiting, since my MP has gotten involved now, I'm waiting for the outcome of that investigation, which has to be independent, because also I'm putting all these documents online, this evidence online, so that it is clear to the public. So instructions to discriminate is unlawful. You cannot do that. You cannot victimize somebody. And racial discrimination is unlawful. It is clear. Public authorities cannot treat you, cannot discriminate against you because of your color, because of your race, or other protected characteristics. It is manifestly clear. End of story. Before I present the next exhibit, I would take some time to disclose some other documentary evidence, simply referred to as Exhibit A, B, and C, to further demonstrate what transpired during the interval of 120 days between 1st of August 2017 and 27th of November 2017 very clearly. In paragraph 1, the victim received multiple letters and emails from Mr. Keiron Murray, advocate for the first respondent, that is the Isle of Man Department of Home Affairs, threatening that he has been instructed to apply for a court order to strike out the victim's claim odd 170002, and that would force or order the victim to pay their costs, which the victim later learned was to be the sum of £7,000. Exhibit A and B. The letters will be exhibited as Exhibit A and the emails as Exhibit B. Paragraph 2. Very corrupt and racist, bigoted John Needham continued to sit on and make one-sided, racist, discriminatory court orders against the victim regarding claim odd 170002. That order will be exhibited as Exhibit C. I'll go to Exhibit A and then B. This is Exhibit A, the letter that I received from Mr. Murray. Here is his email address, keironmurray@gov.im. Right here, that's his email address. He works for the Attorney General's, at the Attorney General's chambers. So that's the address of his office. The date of this letter was 26th of September 2017. I will stop here for the minute and quickly point something out. Very important notes. On August the 1st, which was the beginning of this day, of the 120 days that I'm referring to, on August the 1st, 2017, the victim filed his appeal notice, and I also paid a court filing fee of £325 made payable to the Isle of Man government, as I already stated in this video. Now, the date is important. Let me now go back to Exhibit A. This is September 26th of September 2017. After I had filed the appeal. Again, like I said, they confiscated my money, withheld my money, refused to process or issue my appeal notice. And they were trying to force me illegally to continue to litigate my claim odd 17/00002. In this paragraph, paragraph 1, it says it appears to the department that you are in breach of the court order. These were the court orders that were made by a very corrupt and racist John A. Needham, which I was already appealing. An appeal was in progress. They refused to issue my appeal notice, and they were trying to force me unlawfully to continue to litigate. They shouldn't be contacting me. He said in the paragraph 2, he said, in the event that you do not provide your disclosure by midday on Friday, 19th of September 2017, the department will be applying to strike out your claims. They will always write to me that we are going to strike out your claims. That is what they will be doing. That is what they were doing throughout. Again, I want to cover this paragraph, this final paragraph. It says, finally, we note that you have not yet provided the undertaking relevant to disclosure of the non-pixelated handheld camera footage. This handheld camera footage was to be used as evidence during the court case. This footage, this handheld camera footage, shows them, the Isle of Man, employees of the Isle of Man government, assaulting me. I'll cover that. I'll cover more of this later. So it was on. They said I should sign an undertaking that I'm not going to show it to anybody. Right? So this letter was sent by Keiron Murray and copied to another advocate, Ruth Costain, from Appleby Isle of Man LLC. This advocate was acting for the Isle of Man Constabulary, the Isle of Man Police. They were the second respondents in the case. This is Exhibit A. I would like to go to Exhibit B. I also got 2 emails from Mr. Murray. One of such emails is this email. I would like to cover, this is Exhibit B. I would like to cover the header of the email. As you can see, it was sent by Keiron Murray. This is his email address to myself. Again, look at the date of this, Tuesday, November the 14th. They were still withholding my money. They were still refusing to issue my appeal notice, and they were trying to force me to continue to litigate this case here, odd 17/00002, when I had already appealed. So it is clear that what they were doing was illegal. What he wanted me to do, what he wanted to force me to do, he said, you have intimated that you wish to conditionally withdraw. I withdrew from this case, odd 17/00002. I get on the grounds of discrimination, racism, victimization, and many other things like that were being perpetrated against me. And he said, you have intimated that you wish to conditionally withdraw or discontinue. I did not say I want to discontinue the proceedings. I withdrew on the grounds of discrimination. The department would be prepared to consider any sensible proposals recourse in the event that you are to agree to unconditional withdrawal of the proceedings. I wasn't going to agree to that. I withdrew based on the fact that I was being discriminated against. And I want to note again, I had already paid £325. They should have issued my appeal, but they refused to issue my appeal, pressuring me. As you can see, this email was sent to by Mr. Keiron Murray, a so-called senior legal officer. That's the date again, Tuesday, November the 14th, 2017 at 11:42 a.m. Another email is sent is this. Previously, is 2 minutes before that, he sent this email. Again, this is the header. It was sent by Keiron Murray to myself on Tuesday, November 14, 2017 at 11:40. This one was sent at 11:42. This on the same day. This one was sent at 11:40. Again, it's about odd 17002. And he wrote here and said, I write to advise you that you are in default of your obligations under da 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 da. Again, these were orders that were issued by a very corrupt and racist Needham, John Needham. I had already filed an appeal, and they are pressuring me to continue to litigate this case. I had already filed an appeal. The appeal supersedes this case anyway, and I withdrew from this case, as he said here. As he made it clear here that I already withdrew. I withdrew because I was being discriminated against. I have a right to remove myself from a situation whereby I was being persecuted, discriminated against because of my color, because of my race, and other protected characteristics. That was why I withdrew. So again, he was pressuring me. Then he said in this paragraph, paragraph 3 of this email, in the event of your continued default, I am instructed to apply for an unless order to strike out your claim, to strike your claim out unless you remedy your default. I had already appealed, so I wasn't defaulting anything. I wasn't acting in default of anything. Then he said, the unless order, here this paragraph, the unless order will likely be in the terms that unless you comply with by 1st of December 2017 or some other date, that your claim will be struck out. Again, saying that my claim will be struck out, and that you pay the department's costs for the proceedings. So they were already planning what they were going to do. Again, I want to point out that this was when my money I paid £325. I had already filed an appeal. That money was unlawfully withheld, and I was being pressured, right? So I'll go to exhibit. This is exhibit B. I'll go to exhibit C. This is the court order. Again, I had already appealed. As you can see, this is a court order that was made by High Bailiff John A. Needham. This is his name here. It's regarding this case odd 17002. This is the first defendant. second defendant or respondent. This is the date. Let me show you the date that this order was made by Bailiff Needham, a very corrupt and racist. The 27th day of November 2017. Please note this date, 27th of November 2017, right? On this day, they still haven't issued my appeal. They were trying to force me to continue to litigate this case, and I refused. So I'll go back to and cover some very important notes. Again, as I already stated in this video, on August 1st, 2017, the victim filed his appeal notice. I paid £325. That money was withheld. I was defrauded of my money. In spite of this fact, yeah, that is indisputable. Paragraph C, very corrupt and racist, bigoted Isle of Man judges Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, John A. Needham, unlawfully incited, authorized, and instructed Isle of Man court staff, including Quine, Rebecca Kelly, also known as Rebecca Bingle, Rob Temple, and others who were used as their racist surrogates, not to process or issue the victim's appeal notice to the victim only. They were instructed, incited, instructed, and authorized to deprive and defraud the victim of his appeal filing fee. Check number 100321 was made payable to the Isle of Man government. They were instructed to discriminate against the victim. They were instructed to be very hostile and to direct hateful acts towards the victim. They were instructed to exclude the victim from an ongoing appeal. Original appeal case number of the ongoing appeal is 2DS 2017/18. That appeal was never issued to me. They were instructed to issue the victim's appeal notice and other information to the respondents, the other parties only, which is the Isle of Man Police and the Department of Home Affairs. They released that information, the appeal notice and other information, to the respondents only and exclusively. Only the victim was deliberately and willfully singled out for all these exclusions: discrimination, hostile treatment, deprivation, and defrauding me of my money. Only the victim was deliberately or willfully singled out for this unlawful act of gratuitous Isle of Man, Manx government-sponsored institutional racism, less favorable treatment, and hateful treatment, discrimination, victimization, persecution, extortion, inter alia, without any justification. Paragraph D. A very corrupt and racist, bigoted Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, John A. Needham, together with their racist surrogates, including Quine, Rebecca Kelly, also known as Rebecca Bingle, Rob Temple, Keiron Murray, Quinn, Ruth Costain, conducted themselves in a very hostile, hateful, and malicious manner, and acted criminally and unlawfully towards the victim like a pack of racist wolves. They acted like a pack of racist wolves. Here. How to persecute, victimize, and devour the victim. All these corrupt and racist bigots played their racist white privilege supremacist card very well against a black victim. It is unlawful and it is prohibited by law to take somebody's money, to discriminate against them, to deprive me of my money. That is clear. I have already made that very clear. So I'll just take you to, this is Exhibit A. This is Exhibit A, the letter. This is Exhibit B, the email threatening me, trying to force me to continue to litigate this case, whilst they refused to process or issue my appeal, although they have taken my money. And this date is very important, right? 27th of November 2017. This is Exhibit 211A, an email, as you can see here, sent 120 days later by Mr. Rob Temple to the victim. This is the header of the email, which I'm marking up now. It was sent from Rob Temple of the Isle of Man Court to myself. He copied it to Keiron Murray and Ruth Costain, the advocates. It was sent Tuesday, November the 28th, 2017 at 5:43 p.m. in the afternoon. The subject here is Appeal of Adenike. Now, all of a sudden, we have a new appeal number, 2DS, which I'm flagging up here, 2DS 2017/13. This is the first. After 120 days, they now issued another appeal. The first appeal was 2DS 2017/18, which I was excluded from. They now changed the number to 2DS 2017/31. Let me read the part of this email. The email says, "We are giving directions as to the progress of your appeal notice. They only contacted me after 4 months, 120 days. During this period of 120 days, they had withheld my money, defrauded me of my money. All the complaints I made, they ignored those complaints. Another appeal was in progress, Appeal 2DS 2017/18, which is not this one. They were litigating that. They excluded me from that appeal. Now they changed that appeal to this one, and they are saying we are giving you directions as to the progress of your appeal notice 4 months later. This is Exhibit 211A. I'll take you to Exhibit 211B now, which is this one. Exhibit 211, as you can see here, this is the appeal notice. This is the form that I filed my appeal on. That's my name there. It's the same thing. Now, this number, look at this box. When an appeal has been issued, it says for court use only. They will put in a claim number. They have now put 2DS 2017/31. Issue date was 28th of November 2017. Let me take you back to 211A. Tuesday 28th of November 2017. As you can see, that was 4 months later. They now issued, after confiscating my money, withholding my money, defrauding me of my money, knowing that I'm on employment support allowance due to injuries that I sustained, heart-related injuries that I sustained, that was inflicted upon me by Isle of Man government employees. I will take you to an exhibit 204. This is exhibit 204, which you saw earlier. This exhibit 204 is the same as this. The only difference is that this was not issued to me. It's the exact same thing. This was never, as you can see, I showed you earlier, there is nothing in the claim number and issue date. Now all of a sudden, they've issued it. They issued this after 4 months, right? So it's very important. Let me also, please note this date, 28th of November 2017. I want to take you to Exhibit C, which I covered earlier. They withhold my appeal. You can see that 27th of November 2017 was when Bailiff Needham was made this order. He made this order a day before my appeal was issued. So they intentionally delayed my appeal, refused to issue my appeal in order to keep this process going, which is totally illegal. I already appealed. You cannot withhold my money. So 27th day of November, whilst all this was going on, they were trying to force me to litigate this claim. This is my claim. As I mentioned earlier, this is Mr. Murray. On Tuesday, 14th of November 2017, he was trying to force me to continue to litigate against this case, but I refused. I had already withdrew conditionally based on the fact that they were discriminating against me. My money had been held. I have been complaining. Again, please note, it is very important. I know I am repeating this, but these dates are very important to show you that they intentionally held my money for 4 months, right? Pressuring me. Look at this date. Look at this date. Look at the date of this letter. And they were threatening to strike out my claim, and also threatening that I'm going to have to pay the department's costs. So that's racism right there. And this is they were trying to force me to continue to litigate this 27th day of November, then 28th day, the following day after the 27th day. The following day after the 27th day, no, not this one. The following day, this one, after the 27th day, they finally processed and issued my appeal notice after 4 months, when they saw that I refused to partake in claim number odd 17/0002. I had withdrew because I removed myself from a situation where I was being discriminated against. So this is further discrimination also. So this is the unissued appeal again, exhibit 204, so that it is very clear. This is exhibit 213A, a court order that was issued against me by Jeremy Storey and Andrew Corlett. very corrupt and racist bigots here. This number 2DS 2017/13 is a new number that was created to cover up the fact that the victim was excluded, discriminated against, and unlawfully excluded from original appeal 2DS 2017/18. That appeal 2DS/18, appeal 2DS 2017/18, which I was unlawfully excluded from, was simply reissued as appeal 2DS 2017/31, in order to cover up all the racism that has been going on, the exclusion that I was subjected to, that I have been complaining about in this video. Here is the first respondent, the Isle of Man Department of Home Affairs. Here is the second respondent, the Isle of Man Constabulary, the Isle of Man Police. Here it says, in the matter of the appeal of the appellant, which is myself, against the orders of the High Bailiff. The High Bailiff they are referring to is a very corrupt and racist John A. Needham. And it says, in the matter of cost applications of the first respondent and the second respondent. So they made applications, they've planned against me, made plans against me as to what they were going to do. I will carefully show you what they did was totally illegal. So after I complained, I filed an appeal. One of the reasons that I filed the appeal was to make complaints about very serious misconduct by High Bailiff John A. Needham. High Bailiff John A. Needham instructed Mr. Andrew Thomas Newton, as I noted earlier, to falsify court documents, and Mr. Rob Temple to discriminate against me. The evidence regarding that misconduct is available in public disclosure number 1. Please see the info card, public disclosure number 1. So the evidence for that. Then I'll quickly run through this order. It was ordered in paragraph 1 that I pay the sum of £7,000 to the first respondent, which is the Isle of Man Department of Home Affairs, and in paragraph 2 that I pay the sum of £9,000 to the second respondent, which is the Isle of Man Police. These people, these respondents, the Isle of Man Department of Home Affairs and the Isle of Man Police, were the people who wronged me. People from the Isle of Man Department of Home Affairs assaulted me, and I made complaints to the Isle of Man Police. They refused to do anything about it. Anyway, I'll get to that later. So now this order that was issued by a very corrupt and racist Jeremy Storey and Andrew Corlett is an order that is based on race, and a very malicious order that is based on race. It is based on the fact that I complained against the misconduct by High Bailiff John A. Needham, very serious misconduct, and they wanted to protect their colleague, right? They wanted to protect their colleague. The evidence is very clear as to what John A. Needham did. I've asked the police to investigate them. The Isle of Man police, they have refused. Anyway, let me take you to earlier exhibits. This is exhibit 205, which I showed you earlier. As you can see here, this is the appeal number. Here is 2DS. This is the original appeal number, 2DS 2017/18. This is exhibit 205B. As you can see here, the original appeal number is 2DS 2017/18, same as this one. These numbers, 2DS 2017/18 was reissued all of a sudden as 2017/31 to cover up the fact that I had been excluded from appeal 2DS 2017/18, as I have been documenting in this video. I will show you. This is exhibit 205A. Let me go. This exhibit 205A, which I showed you earlier, was the first respondent submissions. Now, I'll scroll to the bottom of this exhibit 205A. You can see that this advocate, Keiron Murray, was charging £250 an hour. These submissions was prepared on the 25th of August 2017, when I had already filed my appeal, which was not issued to me. So he was charging for discriminating against me. He was charging £250. So I'll go back to the top. Again, please notice this 2DS 2017/18. I'll go to exhibit 205B, which is this one. Again, please note this appeal number 2DS 2017/18. I'll go to this is the second respondent's submissions. So I'll go to the bottom of the page again. This submissions was made by Zara Ruth Costain on the 6th of September 2017, as I showed you earlier. She's charging £225 per hour. I'll go back to the top again because, sorry, the date again, this is the 6th day of September 2017. Again, at this time, my appeal was withheld. I was excluded from appeal 2DS 2017/18 while they were filing all this. You cannot exclude one side. Because of my race, I was excluded, and because of the fact that I was complaining against the misconduct by I believe John A. Needham. So they made all these costs. They asked for a costs order under this appeal number, as you can see here, and it was made under this appeal number. Then it was now issued under this appeal number. Like I said, I was excluded from this appeal number. I was excluded from this appeal. I was excluded. Now these judges are so corrupt and so stupid. They claim that they are superior, yet they are so stupid, right? Look at they can't even do things properly, right? I was excluded, as you can see. Please, as you can see, these costs were made under for £225 an hour under this appeal number, right? Under this appeal number 2DS 2017/18, I was charged, which I was excluded from, I was charged £250 an hour, right? All of a sudden, as if by magic, another appeal number, that appeal number was reissued as 2DS 2017. So something is not quite right there, because I was excluded from appeal 2DS 2017/18. Now, they now said I have to pay them £16,000. That is unlawful. That is criminal. That is extortion. That is why I'm complaining that this is extortion. For complaining about a racist white Isle of Man judge, John A. Needham, who authorized his racist surrogates to falsify court documents, and you are now persecuting me for that. That is totally wrong. That is totally wrong. Like I made an analogy in public disclosure 1. After the end, if you remember, after the abolition of slavery, the slave traders were compensated for enslaving black people, and black people were not given anything, right? Likewise, people who have done me wrong are being compensated £7,000 here and £9,000 here, £16,000. People, that's very racist. These people were brought up to be racist, and they are deliberately, Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey are deliberately racist. They are deliberately racist. Fraudulent, corrupt, racist human beings, right? God put human beings here free of charge, but these racist supremacists, look at what they are doing. It is totally unlawful. Your act is criminal and prohibited by law. This is what I'm complaining at the moment to the United Kingdom about, the ministry, the Department of, the Ministry of Justice rather, and to my MP, right? Back to the victim's evidence regarding claim case number odd 170002. Disclosed below are some of the reasons why the victim filed claim number odd 170002, which later resulted in the original appeal case number 2DS 2017/18, which, as I have been covering in this video, I was unlawfully excluded from. Some of the complaints in case odd 170002 included, but are not limited to, the following: Assault 1 in 2014. The victim, first paragraph, the victim was gratuitously and unlawfully assaulted, punched in the mouth and face, etc., by the employees of the Isle of Man government, by racist employees of the Isle of Man government. Serious injuries were inflicted on the victim following these senseless, gratuitous, and unlawful assaults. Exhibits 401, 402, 403. I'll take you to these exhibits, the exhibits of my injuries now. This is one of the exhibits, exhibit 401. As you can see, my mouth is swollen here. My face is also swollen, Exhibit 401. As you can see also, my lips are swollen and discolored, Exhibit 402. Also, Exhibit 403, my lips are cracked, swollen, bloodied. Let me go back to the victim's evidence again. Paragraph 2, assault in 2014. One of the employees of the Isle of Man government deliberately knelt on, rubbed his knees on the victim's chest, rib cage and torso, brutally rubbing his knee into and on the victim's chest and rib cage or torso. The victim developed very serious chronic and recurrent chest pains and heart problems, etc. Immediately following this senseless, gratuitous, and unlawful assault. The heart problems are very serious injuries that were unlawfully inflicted against the victim's person. Paragraph 3, assault 3 in 2014. Again, one of the employees of the Isle of Man government deliberately covered the victim's nose and prevented the victim from breathing, resulting in a further senseless, gratuitous, and unlawful assault. Paragraph 4. They made an evil and defamatory claim against me in 2004. Following these assaults, which I tried to report and reported to the Isle of Man police, in order to cover up these senseless, gratuitous, and unlawful assaults on the victim's person, one of the employees of the Isle of Man, Manx government, supported by the others, his colleagues, including the Isle of Man police, they deliberately fabricated a totally false, evil, and defamatory claim that I, the victim, squeezed the testicles of one of the Isle of Man government employees and beat him using my teeth, meaning I bite. That is false. That is defamatory. I filed a defamatory claim against the police and the Department of Isle of Man Department of Home Affairs. So those are some of the complaints in odd 17/0002. Other complaints also include cover up, concealment and cover up of critical evidence. This happened from 2014 when this assault transpired through to 2017 and even beyond. Photographs of my injuries. I showed you some of these photographs. Photographs of my injuries were covered up. I paid the Isle of Man police and the Isle of Man Department of Home Affairs to release the photographs of my injuries. They took my checks that were made payable to the Isle of Man government and refused to release the photographs of my injuries. There are still other photographs of my injuries which are more serious that they have refused to release. Also, there is CCTV and handheld video footage of the assaults. These assaults that I'm complaining about, I was being assaulted. There is CCTV video footage of this evidence. They have refused to release the CCTV video footage showing the senseless, gratuitous, and unlawful assaults on the victim. There are also police interview tapes which they have refused to release the original of the police interview tapes. One of my complaints is I noticed that they had doctored the police interview tapes that were released to me. They had doctored it, changed the content of the tapes. So I made a complaint. I made complaints regarding this. They still refuse to release the original police tapes. And other articles of evidence were covered up in direct breach of the rule of law. I also, inter alia, paragraph 6, I also quickly want to say that there are many other things. That is why I said inter alia, meaning etc. I also want to quickly mention that one of the Isle of Man government employees who was responsible for assaulting me and who made an evil and defamatory claim that I squeezed his testicles and beat him was fraudulently awarded, was fraudulently compensated when it is true that no such assault took place. This is racism and totally unlawful. That Isle of Man government employee was compensated back in 2015. All these articles of evidence, which they did not release to me, they were released to his lawyers, to his advocates, and to him. So these articles of evidence were not released to me only. Photographs of injuries, CCTV video footage, handheld video camera footage, and other critical evidence were not released to me only. They were not released to a black victim only. That is also discriminatory behavior. Now, I would like to go to the concluding part of the victim's witness statement, the victim's evidence. Paragraph 7. I'll start at paragraph 7. It is clear that no one is above the law. No one has the right to incite, authorize, instruct their racist surrogates to perpetrate, paragraph A, systemic, well-organized racism and discrimination. Sword. No one has the right to incite, authorize, instruct their racist surrogates to perpetrate discriminatory or racist acts and hate crimes against a black victim. No one is above the law or has the right to incite, authorize, and instruct and use others as racist surrogates. No one is above the law and has the right to incite, authorize or instruct others to deprive and defraud the victim of his money. No one has the right, no one is above the law, and no one has the right to incite and instruct others not to process or issue the victim's appeal notice on Form HC11 to the victim only. No one has the right to use finance as a weapon of manipulation and discrimination, WMD, against a black victim because of his race, color, and other protected characteristics, and because he made very valid evidence-based complaints against John A. Needham, a very corrupt and racist John A. Needham, who instructed his racist surrogates to falsify court documents, and Mr. Rob Temple to discriminate against me. Now, I want to say there is very clearly a crime scene here which needs investigating. In other words, a very thorough and independent crime scene investigation, CSI, is required. Since it is prohibited by law and criminal to incite, authorize, and instruct their racist surrogates to discriminate against, victimize, persecute, and to direct very racist, hostile, and racist and hateful acts towards a black victim. I, the victim, therefore deem all court orders and judgments made under claim case number odd 170002 and original appeal case number 2DS 2017/18 and or appeal case number 2DS 2017/31 by a very corrupt and racist Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, and John Needham, null and void. All these court orders and judgments represent and will continue to represent a gross and serious miscarriages of justice and a scandalous and egregious travesty of justice. These court orders and judgments are dishonest, fraudulent, evil, criminal, unlawful, and are entirely based on malice, hate, bigotry, race, racist surrogacy, racist cronyism, racist nepotism, organized racism, Isle of Man government-sponsored institutional racism, and racist persecution of a black victim because of his race, color, and other protected characteristics. Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, and John Needham, they wear racism as if it is a badge of honor. Racism is not a badge of honor. Racism is evil, criminal, unlawful, and a crime against humanity. Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, John Needham, together with their racist surrogates, blinded by prejudice, racism and hate, organized and conducted themselves like a pack of racist wolves with the malicious and premeditated intent to unlawfully discriminate against, victimize, harass, persecute, and direct hateful, hostile, and racist acts towards a black victim. These criminal and unlawful acts are perverse and constitute very serious misconduct in a public office, racially aggravated malfeasance in a public office. Paragraph 8. A very corrupt, racist, bigoted Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, and John A. Needham's acts, conduct, practices, and patterns of behavior are indefensible and untenable. Malfeasance in law is the performance by a public official, a very corrupt and racist, bigoted Andrew Corlett, Jeremy Storey, and John A. Needham, in these cases, of an act or acts that are legally unjustified, harmful, malicious, or contrary to law and or a wrongdoing. Therefore, I demand very reasonably that these arrogant, racist supremacists and racist criminals resign their public office positions pronto. Again, I would like to mention, no one, irrespective of their color or position, is above the law. That is clear. That is very clear. This is Andrew Corlett, a very racist Isle of Man public servant who incited, authorized, and instructed racism, hate crimes against a black victim. He incited, authorized, and instructed his racist surrogates to deprive and defraud the victim of his money and other unlawful acts, as I have been covering in this video. Andrew Corlett, a very racist public servant. Here it says, the Oxford-educated father of two. So he is a father of two. What I want to say about that is, how would it feel if somebody subjected his children to what they have subjected me to, the unlawful acts of racism, discrimination, hateful crimes, hate crimes that they have subjected me to, persecution, fraud, extortion. I want to take you again to photographs of my injuries, right? Look at the photograph. This is one of the photographs of my injuries. This is another photograph. another photograph that I showed you earlier. This is yet another photograph. Now, would Andrew Corlett want somebody to treat his own 2 children? He is a father of 2. And his wife, would he like somebody to treat his children like that? Mr. Corlett says here that the administration of justice is as important to society as health and education. I agree. Justice is very important as health. Your health is very important. Justice is important. Education is important. Yet they did all this to me, right? A racist is a racist pack of wolves, a member of a racist pack of wolves, directing racism, discrimination, persecution against me. Let me take you to another person. This person is Jeremy Storey, another very racist Isle of Man public servant, who also incited, authorized, and instructed racism, hate crimes against a black victim. This racist criminal, look, these public servants are paid, that is his salary, 179,000, almost 180,000, and is inciting racism. Inciting his racist surrogates to defraud and deprive me of my money. Yet he is being paid 180,000, right? How would Jeremy Storey feel? They said he moved to the Isle of Man with his wife. If somebody discriminated against his wife and his family, if somebody beat up his wife, right? Look at what they did to me. These are the photographs of my injuries again, right? If somebody beat up his wife, discriminated against his wife, how would they feel? If somebody defrauded his wife and his family members, how would he feel? He is on 180,000. Shame on you, you racist, corrupt fool, corrupt criminal. The system makes it possible for these people to direct racism against black people, and nothing is done to these people because a black person is complaining against a white Isle of Man public servant. Nothing is being done. Again, I now suffer. I suffer from chest pains, ongoing chest pains, and heart problems caused to me by the employees of the Isle of Man government. I have a heart device in my chest. I've undergone an operation. And these people, they ordered that I should pay 16,000 in spite of all my injuries. Look at that. Look at how I was beaten up, right? Like I said, I suffer from heart conditions. I'll take you to another very racist Isle of Man public servant. After I complained, this Isle of Man public servant is John A. Needham, a racist pack of wolves. He is a member of the racist pack of wolves. After I complained about very serious misconduct by this racist criminal, this racist Isle of Man public servant, they promoted him. I believe to be Ireland's third most senior judge. They promoted him from I believe to the Isle of Man's third most senior judge, after I complained about very serious misconduct in public office, racially aggravated malfeasance in public office by a very corrupt and racist John A. Needham, who incited Mr. Andrew Thomas Newton to falsify court documents, and Mr. Rob Temple to discriminate against me. They still promoted it, right? It is wrong. This is Isle of Man government-sponsored institutional racism. I complain to the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man has a duty to ensure that I'm not treated I'm not discriminated against. And I'll be taking the Isle of Man government to court about this matter. The evidence is out here, is out now in public. I'll be taking you to court. I'll take you to another person. This is Ruth Costain, an advocate who works for Appleby Isle of Man LLC. The name is Ruth Costain, a racist surrogate. They use these advocates to do their racist, dirty work. A member of the racist pack of wolves. She's being paid, as I showed you earlier in the video, paid £225 an hour to discriminate against me. Shame on you, right? I am better educated, I am well educated, better educated than these people, right? The system makes it possible for them, supports them to discriminate against black people. That is what I'm complaining about, right? I'm not better than anybody. Let me make that clear. I'm not better than anybody, but I'm better educated than Ruth Costain. I'll take you to another very racist Isle of Man advocate. This advocate is Keiron James Murray. This is his advocate profile. Another racist surrogate, racist pack of wolves. He works for the Attorney General's chambers, as you can see here, company Attorney General's chambers. He was paid £250 an hour to discriminate against me. They excluded me, and he was harassing me. They unlawfully excluded me. They were harassing me, right? The system makes it possible for them to do this to black people. Again, I'm better educated than James Murray, Keiron Murray. I'm better educated than them. I must make it clear, I'm not better than anybody, but I'm well educated, right? I have very good experience. I am a professional myself. But if you are black, this is what they do to you, right? I'll take you to yet another advocate. This advocate is called Quinn, another racist surrogate that was used for their racist dirty work, a member of the racist pack of wolves. Again, she works for the Attorney General's chambers company, as you can see here. These are corrupt, racist human beings who are encouraged, authorized to discriminate against a black person, right? This advocate, Ruth Costain, another advocate, Keiron Murray, another advocate, Quinn. There are other advocates. I was the only black person, and I'm not even an advocate, right? They were using all the powers of the state to discriminate against me. Isle of Man sponsored institutional racism. And these judges, this corrupt criminal, Andrew Corlett, this corrupt racist wolf, Jeremy Storey, and this corrupt, dishonest human being, John A. Needham, and their racist surrogates, Ruth Costain, Keiron Murray, Anna Quinn, and others, Isle of Man court staff. They were just misbehaving, misconducting themselves in public office. That is what I'm complaining about. These complaints are a just cause. Racism is evil, it is wrong, it is unlawful, and a crime against humanity. It is not enough to keep quiet, pay lip service to racism, and say we are not racist. Yet, all these things have been done to me. Again, let me show you photographs of my injuries, right? These are the photographs of my injury. Again, so that you are aware, very aware, I suffer from chest pains and heart problems now. Yet, I was ordered to pay 16,000 pounds to the people who caused me these injuries, who defamed, they lied, they defamed my reputation, right? They refused to release evidence, video footage showing myself being attacked, right? Release that footage. You have to release it. I'm complaining. You have to disclose that video footage. I'm complaining at the moment to my MP, Mr. Adam Holloway. I'm complaining to the British government. I will continue to complain to the Isle of Man government. This matter is not going to go away because I now suffer from PTSD following these attacks. I now suffer from chest pains. I now suffer from heart-related problems. I have undergone an operation. I have a heart device, and I told you about it. You still took and sat on my money, deprived me of my money. That is criminal and wrong. Everybody that I'm complaining to, they will be judged by their actions, not by the words, not by their words, but by their actions. It is clear that racism is wrong, unlawful, and evil. So you are going to be judged by your actions. It is clear that I point this out.